Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video we are going to look at muscle twitch. What is muscle twitch? Now, a muscle twitch is the shortening of a skeletal muscle, usually observed when a single action potential is fired through the muscle cell. So that quick shortening of the muscle cell as soon as a single, and I stress on the word single, action potential passes through a muscle cell, that is a muscle twitch. We want to look at the activities that are involved for a single wave of a muscle twitch. The first thing I want you to look at here is a motor neuron that is synapsing with a muscle fiber. So usually we call this a motor unit. Motor unit will be a motor neuron and a muscle cell in which it innervates. Now let's look at the muscle twitch in greater detail. So I'm going to use this diagram to expound on what a muscle twitch is. For a muscle twitch to be recorded, we are looking at a single stimulus, and there are three phases here. There is a latent period, there is a contraction period, and there is a relaxation period. But since it is a single cycle, then there should be that contraction and immediate relaxation right afterwards. So it won't be a cycle of contraction, but there will be latent period, contraction, and immediately a relaxation period. This is what qualifies a contraction to be just a twitch, and the focus is that there is only a single stimulus that is coming. So what happens during the latent period? In fact, all the events in excitation-contraction coupling up onto the period before contraction occur is the latent period. What is this for? So you recall that when a muscle cell is stimulated, first of all, there would be the excitation-contraction coupling, which in greater detail, it means that the wave of action potential moves down into the T-tubule, and then it will cause opening of two specific receptors or channels. That hypopyrin receptor, which couples the opening of reticulum receptor. You would recall that the reticulum receptor encloses the opening to the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which stores calcium ion. So when all these events are happening, then calcium ions are released into the muscle cell. Those things are happening within the latent period, and it happens just between 0 to 1 millisecond. So all of these events are happening, and as soon as the muscle cell is stimulated, calcium ions are released into the muscle cell. So from the event where the neuron, the single stimulus, stimulated the muscle cell, then the muscle cell got excited, and as a result of the excitation, it released the calcium ions. That is the latent period. Then the next phase is contraction period. During the contraction period, that is when the muscle now begins to build tension. Now, in building tension, you would understand that the calcium ion will have to bind to troponin C, causing the unwinding of tropomyosin, exposing the active binding site on the actin. When this happens, we would understand that it will cause the myosin head to bind. But before the myosin head binds, remember there will also be ATP hydrolysis on the myosin cross bridge, which will cause the myosin head to gain affinity for the active binding site on the actin. It will immediately bind, then there will be the power stroke, which will bring the driving force to cause the muscle to shorten in length. So that shortening in length between 1 to about 20 milliseconds is the twitch, but the twitch will not be complete unless the muscle relaxes afterwards. So in relaxation, immediately calcium ions levels will drop, which will cause the reuptake of calcium ion back to the extracellular fluid and also back to the sarcoplasmic reticulum using a calcium ATPase pump. Once calcium ions are taken, tropomyosin would go back to its position by blocking the active binding site on the actin. When that happens, then the myosin head will be detached, then the muscle length will widen, causing the muscle to fully relax. And you can see that the time for relaxation is quite longer than the time for contraction because of all of these events happening. Alright, it could take as much as about 60 milliseconds for the muscle to relax. And when it relaxes, then if there is any other stimulus or stimulation, then there could be a second wave of what? Twitch. But usually muscle twitch is just a single quick contraction and relaxation of the muscle cell. I hope this makes a lot of sense. Thank you for watching this video. See you in another video. Bye bye for now.